Hey everybody, this is Jason from the Chosen Museum of Houston, ASTEAM manager, and I'm going to do our last activity today on gross science, which this time is not something that I particularly find gross, but many people do, and that is what we call the dissection of an eye. And we're not dissecting just any kind of eye, we're dissecting a cow's eye. Now right inside this bag here, you can't really see what that cow's eye looked like, but it's very similar looking to the eyes in our head, okay? It's just bigger. Let's first talk a little bit about what dissection is. Dissection is an old practice. We've been doing dissections for thousands and thousands of years. It's a way for us to get inside of something and see what the parts are inside that we normally can't see. So some of the most famous dissections that we've done in the past as kids, many of us have been frogs, or earthworms, or even fetal pigs. I dissected a cat when I was a kid, They threw a cat in front of us and said, go do it, and we're like, cool. And the reason for it is it helps you understand the inner anatomy of an organism. Now dissection doesn't just mean with animals. You can literally dissect the stem of a tree. You can dissect the leaf. You can dissect all kinds of stuff. It's just the ability to be able to see inside what you normally can't see. Now when you dissect things like leaves and stems and roots and whatnot, you might have to use further technology like a microscope to actually see more what you're looking at. So you may take a slice of something that's a dissection, put it under a microscope and take a look at it, okay? In this case, with a cow's eye, it's fairly simple. You start to cut things and you can actually see all the stuff that you want to see. So it's very, very interesting, a lot of fun. Now, the one thing that we can't do is we can't give you a scalpel. It's a little bit dangerous for kids up to 6th grade. I know some people have some 7th graders, but up to 6th grade is a little bit dangerous, especially in an after-school environment when there's just kids kind of like, sitting down and doing their thing. But what we do to try to keep this in a very scientific manner is we do give you the actual scissors, these surgical scissors that doctors use, okay? Now, it does make it a little bit harder to dissect the eye, but it gives your kids that awareness of scientific tools, and we want them to have that awareness as well. That's why we also give them a pair of tweezers, so they can dissect with the scissors and they can pull things out with the tweezers. We give them even a not so scientific tool, a toothpick, that helps you kind of dig things around and look for stuff. So what you're going to do with this activity is, you're going to first ask the kids if they want to do it. This is one of those things where, if the kids don't want to do it, just like any activity that we give you, they don't have to. But this one especially, because when you do open up that bag, there is a smell of formalin, which is a preservative, and some kids don't like that smell. Some kids have, a sort of ethical non-desire to do it because they're vegans or vegetarians or whatever kind of diets they have, so they don't want to harm animals in any way, even though these animals really aren't harmed. They die in natural causes, most of these cows, and their eyes are just removed and preserved after they die. But we still want to make sure that every person is respected and their sort of like ways of thinking are respected. So this is one of those ones you really want to make sure the kids want to do it. Another thing is the kids can't each have their own eyeball unless you have a team of 12 and all of a sudden only 3 people want to do it, then they all can have their own eyeball. You gotta put them in groups so that they can work together. It's really good to put them in groups as well, because if you don't put them in groups, it's going to take them way too long to do it. It's not an easy thing to dissect a cow's eye, primarily because of what surrounds the eye. We'll get to all the stuff in a moment. But when you're doing this, you want to make sure that safety is also part of your plan. Every kid needs to be wearing a pair of goggles, and every kid needs to put on a pair of gloves. This is very, very important, so that, when the gooey stuff comes out of the eye, it doesn't freak them out. If something squirts, it doesn't hit them in their own eye, which could cause some damage. You just want to make sure that the safety precautions are there. Now, if you wind up having not enough goggles for the kids you have, just start them in small groups and let one group do it, and have the other kids do something else, and then when they're done, bring a new eye out and have another group do it. Things like that, Just little things you can do to sort of move it along and make sure everyone's safe. If you have predominantly little kids, like kindergartners, even first graders, I'd say second graders this would really start. you want to do the dissection sort of with maybe 8 kids at a time, and you do the dissection. You can let them help out, but they're going to have a hard time doing it. Not because they don't understand what's going on, it's more like the locomotion of it is going to be difficult for them. Another tactic you can use with little kids, if you have a mixed group, just put big kids with the little kids. Put fifth graders with kindergartners. Don't let all the fifth graders hang out together. Kind of separate them out so they can get that done themselves as well. And yes, we already have had kindergartners do this. We've had first graders do this. We had second graders do this. And they were fine. They did a very, very good job. Now, I'm not going to sit here and dissect an eyeball right now. It just takes way too long. I can sit there and you'll shut off within 10 minutes because you'll be like, wow, he's still cutting the fat around this thing. So I don't want you guys to have to go through this, but one of our illustrious team members actually already dissected an eye for me, and I got all the pieces here so you can see what's what. So first thing, this is just really right now kind of the shell of the eye, what you're looking at right here, okay? We've taken everything out already. If you look kind of inside this area, that's like this black area right here, that's where the blind spot is. The blind spot is an area that doesn't receive any light. Everybody has a blind spot, okay? You can't collect all the light that you need to collect for anything. So really, this is what you're looking at after it's all been dissected, but this is what it looks like before dissection. It's a lot bigger, so you're cutting a lot of things away and you're cutting a lot of things off to make it look the way it looks right here. We also take off the fat and muscle, okay? Fat and muscle is very important. The fat helps protect the eye, okay, nourishes the eye, and the muscle helps the eye to move around, okay? You remember, your eyes aren't stationary, your eyes can move, so you have muscles in your eyes. So you need to get rid of that fat and muscle so that you can get into the inner parts of the eye. Now right here, this is the cornea, okay? The cornea is like this little layer, this little film over your eye that protects your eye from irritants. Remember when we talked about snot, we talked about how when you breathe in, you get all kinds of dust and things into your body every time you breathe. Well, if you didn't have this cornea protecting your eye, you would get all kinds of stuff into the eye that could irritate it to the point of damaging it. So the cornea is very important. So you kind of want to cut around the cornea and get that off so they can see that it's also a little bit opaque, but a little bit see-through, okay? So it's kind of like it's not the lens, but it's like a film. It looks like almost like a little bit of a lens over the eye, okay? Now, right here is the iris and the pupil. So when you're looking at your pupil, that's generally what we call like eye color. You know, some people have blue eyes, some people have green eyes, some people have hazel eyes or brown eyes. That's your iris and your pupil, okay? Those take in light and also like they allow and not allow light to come in, all right? It makes that choice of when it needs to come in, all right? So it's a very, very important piece. Now working towards the back of the eye is the retina, and you can see the retina is very rainbow looking. It also helps give the color of the eye. That's what receives the light and then starts to create the image that you want to see, all right? So that's your retina. Now this little piece right here is the piece the kids have the most fun with. It's the lens, all right? Now, just like a camera lens, the lens of your eye helps put things in focus. And you can test this out, it's pretty cool. You can take the lens that you've pulled out of the cow's eye and you can put it onto like a piece of writing, like a newspaper or the tabletop sheet that we give you or whatever, and it'll put that into focus, that little piece into focus. Now, it won't put the whole thing in focus because you have to put it down on the little piece, but it'll put into focus, and it's pretty cool for the kids to see that. Now, when it's receiving information, it starts to filter that information out with help of the optic nerve, and then you get the images that you see. Now, one interesting thing about the lens is most people don't know this. When you receive information into your eye, because you have a lens in your eye, it flips it. All right? It turns it upside down in our way of thinking. Okay? But the optic nerve, which is what sends information to the brain and helps sort out what you're looking at, it sends that to your brain, and your brain repositions it correctly so that you can see what you want to see. And you're not just looking at the world upside down, you're looking at the world right side up. So it's very interesting. So your optic nerve is what's connecting over to your brain and letting information come back and forth between those two. There is a strange fluid inside. There's actually two strange fluids inside of your eyeball. There's vitreous humor, there's aqueous humor. And you can see it's kind of like this jelly-like fluid. It's a surprising thing a lot of times for the children on this one, because I'll open it up and it squirts out and they're like, what is all that stuff? Well, these fluids, this aqueous fluid and this vitreous fluid, help keep the shape of the eye. Okay? Have you ever heard of hydrostatic pressure? That's something that's causing your eye to sort of be inflated a little bit so that it stays in its shape. It's helped out with this vitreous humor and this aqueous humor. So if your hydrostatic pressure gets too high, you need to get your eye checked out. There's probably something wrong with your eye at that point. So those are the things you want your kids to look for. Now, we understand that you have kids. They are not adults like myself, Jennifer, Obi, people that come and help you all out. They're kids. We're not so interested in them bringing out perfect specimens like this retina, or this cornea, like that perfect, okay? What we're more interested in them is them doing the action of dissection, them getting used to the idea of dissection, them actually appreciating that dissection could lead them to a career in medicine, veterinarian medicine, human medicine, whatever kind of medicine they want. They could be a surgeon, they can do all kinds of stuff. Also, when you start to do things precision-wise, it also leads to engineering, because engineers have to be precise in what they do. Also, making mistakes is okay. That's another thing you can talk about when it comes to careers, like say with engineering. Engineers make mistakes all the time. What they do though is they fix their mistakes. They find the problem and they fix it. And that's the same thing here. You start to do things like this dissection, you start to learn how to solve problems, and you start to have an appreciation for the different things that are offered to us to get us into careers, okay? So they might hack up their eyeball to many, many, many pieces. The one thing they're never going to be able to destroy, though, is their lens. Their lens is really tough and hard, okay? So as long as they get the lens on, they can show you the lens, you've done well. If they can get the piece of the retina out, that kind of rainbow-looking piece, not intact completely, but that's a piece, they've done a good job. If they can point out what the cornea is before destroying it, they've done a good job, okay? A lot of times the way you get into the inside of the eye is you pierce the cornea. You just poke right through it with your toothpick, and you can start to dig in there and find stuff. Other ways you can do is you can cut the eye in half. I mean, there's so many different ways to get to the stuff inside. We just want the kids to have that experience more than anything and have that joy of being able to take a piece of anatomy and look inside of it and see what there is to see. Okay? So there's no pressure on them to do this in a very precise way. You just want them to be able to point things out, get stuff out of the eye, and understand why they're dissecting. That's what's important here. So with that said, I'm going to sign off at this point. I'm going to thank you once again for joining me for this quick video to help you kind of understand the different pieces of the eye and how the dissection works. This is our last video on the gross science unit. So we're going to do other videos though for the other units we have, and we hope you watch those too. Once again, thank you very much for joining us. Have a great day.